Why most people never become millionaires, and why some do. In 1998, two men started the same job at the same company on the same day. Same title. Same starting salary of $42,000 a year. Same health insurance. Same 401k with the same employer match. Same everything. If you had looked at both of them on their first day, you could not have told them apart financially. They were identical on paper. 23 years later, one of them retired with a net worth of $1.4 million. The other retired with a net worth of $122,000. Same company, same salary progression, same 23 years. One is financially free. The other is going back to work. The question this video is about is not who they are. It's what happened in the space between those two numbers. Because the gap between $122,000 and $1.4 million is not explained by income. It's not explained by luck. It's not explained by inheritance or circumstance or intelligence. It's explained by four structural differences that show up in the data over and over again, regardless of what the two people earn, where they live, or what industry they work in. My name is Nick. Today we are going inside those four differences. And if you are somewhere in the middle of your working life and the number in your account doesn't match the number you expected by now, this video is specifically for you. Let's start with the thing most people think explains the gap, because getting this one wrong is what keeps most people from ever closing it. Most people believe the primary difference between people who become millionaires and people who don't is income. The millionaires earned more. Simple. If I earned more, I'd be there too. The data does not support this. The Federal Reserve's Survey of Consumer Finances consistently shows that income and net worth are correlated, but not nearly as tightly as people assume. There are millions of Americans earning over $150,000 a year with a net worth under $100,000. There are millions earning under $80,000 with a net worth over $500,000. The income explains some of it. It does not explain most of it. Thomas Stanley spent decades studying American millionaires for his research that became The Millionaire Next Door. What he found challenged almost every cultural assumption about what wealthy people look like. The majority of American millionaires are first-generation wealthy. They did not inherit it. Most of them live in ordinary neighborhoods, drive used cars, shop at normal grocery stores, and would be completely invisible to you if you passed them on the street. The average American millionaire household earns around $130,000 a year, which is good money, but not extraordinary money. What separates them from households earning similar amounts is not the income, it's the gap between what they earn and what they spend. That gap has a name. It's called the savings rate. And the savings rate is the single most powerful variable in determining lifetime wealth. More powerful than income, more powerful than investment returns, more powerful than any financial product anyone will ever try to sell you. The first structural difference between people who build wealth and people who don't is their relationship with their future self. This sounds psychological, which it is, but it has a very specific financial expression. People who build wealth consistently treat their future self as a real person with real needs, who deserves a share of today's income. People who don't build wealth treat their future self as an abstract concept that will somehow sort itself out. In practical terms, this shows up in one specific habit. Wealthy builders pay themselves first, before the rent, before the car payment, before the groceries, before anything. A fixed percentage of every paycheck goes to savings and investment automatically, before they can spend it, before they can rationalize it away, before lifestyle has a chance to absorb it. The non-wealthy majority does the opposite. They pay everything else first, and save whatever is left. The problem with saving whatever is left is that there is almost never anything left. Expenses will always expand to consume available income. This is not a discipline failure. It's a sequencing problem. The person who saves last will almost always save nothing. The person who saves first, automatically, before the money touches their checking account, will save consistently for decades without feeling it. This is why the 401k contribution setup is the most financially impactful thing most Americans ever do or fail to do. Not because of the tax advantages, though those are real, because it forces the pay yourself first sequence by removing the money before the paycheck hits the account. The automation is the strategy. The automation is the whole thing. People who set it up and leave it alone build wealth. People who never set it up or set it too low and never adjust it don't. The second structural difference is what each group actually owns. People who build wealth accumulate assets, things that either grow in value over time, produce income while they wait, or both. Stocks, index funds, real estate, businesses, ownership stakes of various kinds. Assets. People who don't build wealth accumulate liabilities that look like assets. A car is not an asset. A car is a depreciating object you finance at interest, insure at a premium, maintain at a cost, and eventually replace. A new car is one of the most efficient wealth destruction mechanisms available to an ordinary person because it combines depreciation with interest, with opportunity cost into one monthly payment that provides zero return and cannot be recovered. The same logic applies to most of the things status culture encourages people to buy. The expensive apartment in the expensive neighborhood. The clothes that signal success. The restaurants and experiences that are appropriate for someone at your income level. None of these are assets. All of them consume the money that would otherwise become assets. Stanley's research found that wealthy accumulators, the people actively building toward financial independence, spend dramatically less on the signals of wealth than people with similar incomes who are not building wealth. The non-accumulators are spending money to look wealthy. The accumulators are spending money to become wealthy. These are opposite behaviors that produce opposite outcomes, and they are almost impossible to distinguish from the outside because the non-accumulator looks richer. This is the central cruelty of status-based spending. It makes you look successful while preventing you from becoming successful. The third structural difference is compounding, but not in the way most people learn about compounding. Most people learn about compounding as a neat math concept. The money doubles on a schedule. Leave it alone long enough and the growth gets impressive. Nice. What most people don't understand is that compounding is not linear, it's exponential. And the difference between linear and exponential is the difference between understandable and almost incomprehensible. Here's what I mean. In the first 10 years of serious saving and investing, compounding feels like a slow grind. You put in the money, you watch it grow modestly, and you wonder if this is really working. It doesn't feel like much. The contributions are doing most of the lifting. The compounding is just starting. But somewhere around year 15 or 20, something changes. The portfolio itself starts generating more money per year than your contributions are adding. You are no longer the primary driver of your own wealth. The money is. And at that point, the gap between the person who started and the person who didn't starts to become the kind of gap that cannot be closed by working harder or earning more. It can only be created by time. This is why starting matters so much more than optimizing. A 25-year-old who invests $400 a month into a simple index fund will accumulate more wealth by 65 than a 35-year-old investing $800 a month into the same fund. The 25-year-old invested half as much money and ended up with more, not because they were smarter or more disciplined, because they started 10 years earlier and compounding had a longer runway. The millionaire at 55 who started at 25 is not extraordinary. They are ordinary plus 30 years of compounding. The person who waited until 35 is ordinary plus 20 years of compounding. The math does not care about the reason for the delay. It only counts the years. The fourth structural difference is the invisible drain that keeps most people from ever starting or maintaining the first three differences. It has several names: lifestyle inflation, consumption creep, keeping up. Whatever you call it, the mechanism is the same. Every time income goes up, spending goes up to match it. The raise becomes a nicer apartment. The promotion becomes a newer car. The bonus becomes a better vacation. Not because these things are wrong or immoral, but because they are the default. In the absence of a deliberate decision about where the new money goes, it goes to lifestyle. Always. This is not a character flaw. It is the natural behavior of a human being embedded in a consumer culture that is extremely good at showing you things to spend money on the moment you have more to spend. The accumulators are not immune to this. They feel it too. The difference is that they have a system that captures income growth before lifestyle can absorb it. Every raise, a percentage goes to savings first. Every bonus, a percentage gets invested before the spending conversation begins. The lifestyle grows, just not as fast as the income grows. The gap between income and lifestyle is where wealth lives, and the deliberate protection of that gap is the active work of becoming wealthy. Not picking the right stocks, not timing the market, protecting the gap. The non-accumulators let the gap close with every income increase until there is no gap left. They are running faster and faster on a treadmill that keeps speeding up. They feel busy, they feel productive, they feel like they are doing well because the lifestyle signals are improving. But the net worth is not moving. Now let's talk about what the data actually shows about American millionaires, because the picture is almost the opposite of what popular culture suggests. According to a wide range of studies, including Stanley's research and Spectrum Group's annual surveys, the majority of American millionaires are first-generation wealthy. They did not inherit their way there. They built it. The most common professions among American millionaire households are not Wall Street jobs or tech founders. They are teachers, engineers, accountants, small business owners, and middle managers who earned ordinary incomes over long periods and made the specific behavioral choices we just discussed. The average American millionaire household drives a car that is at least 3 years old. Most own their primary residence and have for a long time. Most have never bought a boat. Most have never owned a vacation home. Most have never worn a watch that costs more than their monthly car payment used to. None of this is about deprivation. It's about prioritization. The accumulators decided a long time ago what they were building toward, and they built toward it. The gap between what they earn and what they spend is the portfolio. It has been growing for 20 or 30 years, and now they have a choice that most Americans at their income level don't have. They can stop working, because the money now works for them. So where does this leave you? Let's go back to the two men from 1998. The one who retired with $1.4 million set his 401k contribution to 12% on his first week of work, and increased it by 1% every year he got a raise. He drove the same car for 11 years. He bought a house he could afford rather than the house his income could technically support. He did not time the market or pick individual stocks. He bought index funds and left them alone. He protected the gap between his income and his lifestyle for 23 years. That is the entire biography of his financial success. The one who retired with $122,000 earned almost the same amount over the same period. He upgraded his car every 4 years. He moved to a nicer apartment every time his salary increased. He started his 401k contribution at 3% and never got around to raising it. He was not irresponsible. He was not reckless. He was normal. He did what the consumer culture around him made look like the natural thing to do with a rising income. The gap between them is $1,278,000. It was built one paycheck at a time over 23 years. It was built in the quiet accumulating space between what they earned and what they chose to keep. The path to becoming a millionaire in America is not a secret. It is not a hack. It is not a get-rich-quick strategy or a hot investment or a side hustle that scales. It is a gap. The gap between income and spending, maintained deliberately for long enough that compounding can do its work. Most people never build that gap because the culture around them is designed to close it. The advertising, the social comparison, the financial products that make debt feel normal, the status signals that make spending feel like success, all of it works against the gap. Building wealth requires swimming against that current, not with superhuman willpower, but with systems that remove the decision from the moment and automate the gap before a lifestyle can absorb it. The two men from 1998 had the same starting line. They had the same playing field. They had the same tool available to them. The only thing that differed was a handful of systems and habits that compounded quietly over 23 years into a $1,278,000 difference. That difference is available to you. It requires no special knowledge beyond what you now have. It requires no extraordinary income. It requires only that you decide today what percentage of the next paycheck goes somewhere it cannot be spent before lifestyle gets to it. The gap is the strategy. Protect the gap. I will see you in the next one.